Hi everyone, today I'm looking at my camera setup. This is basically all the equipment I've bought so far, which I use on a regular basis to do my reviews with. Right now I'm using my original camera, my old Canon Ligara. I'll put the serial number and everything down on screen in a second or two. See? Told you. And I'm just going to show you what I use nowadays. This is my wonderful Canon 700D with a Rode Pro microphone on the top, a lighting rig which I've forgotten the name of, and a nice extending wire to connect everything up from the Pro to the Canon itself, as well as my tripod. Now, I think I've reviewed pretty much all of these items except maybe the lighting rig by itself, but you also notice I've got a hot shoe mount, a hot shoe adapter that gives me the option to have those two optional little extras on, and in general it's all going quite well. I've also got the battery mount grip as well, so that's things I keep forgetting about. Let's see, let's just do a little count here. We've got the tripod, we've got the battery grip, we've got the camera itself, we've got the Rode Pro mic, we've got the lighting rig, and we've got the extension wires. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things to look at. That's my equipment as of this point in time. That, like I said, I use on a regular basis to do most, if not all, of my reviews from now on. Videos that aren't reviews will depend on what those videos are. Anyway, let's take a quick closer look. The tripod I've already gone over before, and it, in its own right, is a very good solid piece of equipment. But with the addition of the camera grip here, it has gave just a slight little problem to the actual stability. If I press the on button, then everything wobbles a bit, and that wobble continues for quite a little while. So I didn't notice it initially, so to get around that, I'm now basically hitting the start button, or the shoot button, whatever you want to call it, waiting a few seconds until everything's calmed down, and then I'm actually starting, which is a good little tip anyhow. The Rode Pro, I still haven't entirely mastered the use of this. I have found that when I'm editing, then I can quite easily adjust the sound levels there, you know, make it louder if needed, make it quieter if needed, but actually getting used to the different settings on it can be a bit of a pain. Also, if I am doing a review, then I don't actually have it in this configuration. What I do is I try to unfasten this and point this the other way around, because as I'll be behind the camera, that makes it easier to pick up my voice. It really only seems to pick up the voice effectively from the front. Anything from the side sounds muffled, and anything from the back just sounds pathetic. The lighting rig I'm quite happy with, but in general it doesn't seem to really flood what I'm looking at with light. It just sort of more concentrates on a tiny area. Getting the angle on it does help, and I'm finding this is probably, overall, probably the best rig I've had so far in terms of lighting. The rig I was using before, which I've got here, less LEDs, less reflective quality, and when I turn it on nowadays, although it was flickering a bit when I had it on the full, and it still does. When I look at it through the LED screen here, it looks even worse than ever before. It's not flickering as much as it was, but I can get this close enough to the mic, watch your ears and eyes, you'll probably hear that it's making a bit of a humming noise. That's only started today. I'm not sure what's going on here, but even when I adjust it and turn it down, the lighting levels that is, it still tends to end up making that noise, which is a bit disturbing. Anywho, next thing I should really point out is the extension cable I've got here. This hooks up to here and gives me that bit more extra, room to manoeuvre with, as far as the cable's concerned. Yes, by itself it's fine, and you've got this particular little adapter here that just gives me the extra length. And this is probably going to be very good for trying to hook it up directly to the PC if I want to do recording through that, although nowadays I've got a Blue Yeti, so if I'm doing anything that requires being directly at the PC, I'd just use that. And this was the original idea, but then I got the Blue Yeti and everything was so much better, so much nicer, so much better quality sound. Between this and the Yeti makes a better noise, or it records the better noise. Yeah, that's more sensible. Either way, the way you're using just this cord by itself, or the extension cord, it always kind of blocks the stream just ever so slightly. and it doesn't help that this is positioned here, this little protective cover. If it came down this way, for example, that would make it a bit more easy, a bit more practical to use as far as the screen's concerned. The battery pack, this is where having a right-handed camera becomes real pain, because I'm angling myself here. That works quite nicely. Haven't had any complaints about it. Just sometimes need to be pushed in a little bit more, but that's a very minor little niggle. And in general, as a setup, it's quite nice. It's quite good, apart from obviously that little niggle I mentioned about the wobble factor. Obviously, that's because of the extra weight of the camera grip. And I'm not actually going to review the lens for it here because there's no real point in doing that. It's there, it works. I probably don't really need it for indoors use, but I can't be bothered to take it off, so it's on there all the time. I also make use of a wide-angled lens as well, which this is not compatible with. So the wide-angled lens never has any kind of hood attachment on because I don't have one that fits. And I don't think I'll bother getting one for it either because, well, I might try it eventually. I might get one and see what it's like, and you never know. If I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. I couldn't really see because I haven't done that yet. Then let's just move on to the hot shoe mount itself, because this is where things sort of fall apart a little as far as I'm concerned here. This was one of the cheaper mounts that are going here, and it secures itself in quite nicely, but it does feel just a bit loose here. See what I mean? It shouldn't really be doing that, and it's not actually a problem with the grip here. That's firmly in place. It's the screw thread keeps on doing. There is a solution. Get your screw head driver in here. Screw head driver. What am I saying? Phillips head screwdriver. That's better. Yeah. Get that in there. And it's all nice and tight again until you put too much turn into it, and then off it goes. Slight-wise though, although this is not a problem with the mount itself, it's a problem with the Rode Pro. Its little screw head here, somehow it's managed to get itself so tight it won't unfasten unless you go at it with something like pliers. I'll show you what I mean. Pliers. I don't have the leverage needed at this point to do it, to actually give you a proper working demonstration. But take my word for it, that's what I've had to do. But it still manages to tighten itself up again. So if it has came to a case of doing a review, I've needed to have this around, and I can't be bothered to fight with the screw head, all I do is that. And that gives me all the microphone use I need when I'm behind the camera recording my own voice. As far as the lighting rig is concerned, oh god, I can't do this one-handed. With both hands, I can kind of do this. Most of the time, some of the time. Not right now. So maybe if I... You don't want to know what I just did there. I'm going to have to tighten that up again. There we go. Now there's been a little bit of fun and games with the attachment for this as well. I'll have to take it off to actually show you, but in general, I'm quite liking this. It works quite well. The actual lighting rig itself, the light turns on at the back. You can adjust it to any level you want. From a more low level comfort level to completely off to turn it on full beam. And I obviously don't recommend looking at the full beam because you'll blind yourself. It also comes with a selection of filters, but I can't remember where I've put them. Should have thought of that before I started filming. But they just basically make slight differences. There's actually one filter which is just a clear transparent piece of plastic which doesn't make any noticeable difference, but the other two are a yellow lens and a purple lens, which does do the trick quite nicely. It does work quite well. Onto the Rode Pro, because at this angle you can sort of see the display, the controls better. That's the basic on, that's full on. I haven't really noticed that much of a difference between the sound quality in that regard. I'm still experimenting in many regards. Every time I do a video, I'm experimenting with different settings. For the most part, I do not need it on the plus 20 decibel level, unless I've got the camera a good distance away from me, which it never is. The minus 10 decibel level tends to make everything quite quiet, somewhat noticeably so, but even if I have it right next to me, if I'm speaking behind it with the minus 10 decibel on, it doesn't really do anything favourable for it. It makes it sound quite poor, to be honest. So for the most part, I just leave it on the neutral setting. Of course, the camera I'm using at the moment has its own built-in microphone and absolutely nothing to allow you to connect an external mic or any kind of hot shoe attachment whatsoever. So that's a bit of a disappointment. It would be nice to use something like this on this camera as well, just to give you better sound quality. There we go, my setup. It's not perfect by any means, but I like this setup far more than what I was doing before. There are a couple of solutions I could put in place as far as the shake factor is concerned because of the battery grip. Number one would be taking out the battery grip and just using the camera normally, but that means unattaching the camera grip and putting a single battery back in and reattaching everything, which I don't really want to do. But, you know, there may very well come a time when I have to do that. Can't think of when, though. And another solution would be to go and buy, using, is it this side? No, it's this side. There's another adapter area here, which the camera probably isn't going to pick up too well because of the light quality. I have got light on full blast here, but you've got this little adapter here where you can basically plug something else in. Oh no, that's something else altogether. What I'm looking at really is this thing here, just above my fingernail. I'll just zoom in extremely. You can see this little attachment here. That is another attachment area where you can plug in a sort of timer thing. You've also got the built-in timer on this, but it can be a bit fiddly. In fact, not so long ago when I went off to do a photo shoot, just some local beaches and whatnot, I found that the automatic timer functions had turned themselves on without me ever having touched them ever before. That's literally the one and only time I've used that feature on this particular camera, and that was by complete accident because I had no idea how it got turned on. It took a while to actually turn it off because I had never had any intention of actually using that feature, so I hadn't bothered looking it up. But there you go. Makes a very loud noise as well when it does it. It's literally an alarm that's going off, and it just made me think the camera was going to self-destruct until I managed to figure out what was going on, which I had to figure out on location, which was not nice. By the time I figured it out, the sun had gone, and since I was wanting to shoot nice colourful beach scenes, and there you go. Well, that's my setup. That's everything that I've got so far. I will say this one other thing, because I meant to mention this earlier. You've got this little attachment here, which you basically use to loosen things and tighten things. Right now it's so tight it's a bit difficult to loosen. Oh no, tell a lie, it's actually quite loose now. But that basically allows you to swivel things around a bit more freely, a bit more easily. And it just goes crazy like that. And it's now dead. I hope you're happy. Actually, that does remind me, I wanted to do one other thing. And I'm going to have to stop this recording and splice new footage in. So I'll see you in just a sec. So here we are with a more traditional top-down view here. Me literally pointing my camera directly at the object on top of my computer desk. And here's the issue I have for the most part with this. You've got the hot shoe mount adapter here, and then you've got the actual screw thread here. If you undo it too much, then the whole thing will come off. And it can be a bit of a bugger to get it back on again. Let me see, I'm just going to do that trick I did before that you don't want to know about. So as you can see, we've got this tiny little screw here which can fall through when it needs to, but when you put it flat like that, then it sort of disappears altogether. So, drop it down like that, and it needs to go into here. So you've got to make sure that everything is lined up as perfectly as possible to get this back in, to get it tightened up. But if this comes loose at all, then it becomes a real pain to put this in. That's the only real drawback I'm having with this thing. Other than that, like I said before, I am really liking my rig as it's set up, and I'm looking forward to any potential improvements I could make in future. I'm sure if anybody's actually watching this, they'll let me know below. Cheers!